So going specifically into the book itself, you start off with, I think it's a very good choice the way you start off the book, because you speak about one of your patients called Jacob, who is addicted to pornography and masturbation. And I think that is a very striking opening, and it drives me, it drove me into the book, because I just found that very interesting. I think a lot of people would maybe talk about pornography addiction and say that it's not possible to be addicted to something like that. How and why do people become addicted to stuff like that?
Well, I mean, it's clearly a drug and highly addictive for some individuals. And I think the number of people addicted to pornography is only growing. And I think this is really a hidden addiction. There's enormous shame with all types of addictions, but I think especially with pornography addiction, especially among men. When we have an orgasm, it floods our brain with all kinds of feel-good neurotransmitters, including dopamine. So the orgasm itself is potentially a drug. And then if you then pair that with a stimulus, a visual stimulus, usually, an image or, a moving image or a still image, which is also a drug, right? Because that goes right to the visual cortex, which then goes to our reward pathway. Then you have really a very potent drug, because you've got the visual stimulus, plus you've got the physiologic orgasm. It's super addictive. And when people get addicted to pornography, it follows a very similar trajectory as getting addicted to other drugs and behaviors. People usually start out for fun or to solve a problem. The problem is usually something like insomnia, boredom, anxiety, depression. If it works for them, then they go back to it. Over time, with repeated exposure, they need more and more of that drug or more potent forms to get the same effect. And then pretty soon they're using regularly, compulsively, in an out of control way, and in a way that has harmful consequences, maybe harmful for their job, maybe for their relationships, even, physical harm. People can develop, orgasm problems, problems with ejaculation, all kinds of, physical problems. And then, of course, the universal symptoms of withdrawal from any addictive substance, which is to say what we experience when we stop, are psychological symptoms, including anxiety, irritability, insomnia, depression, and intrusive thoughts of wanting to use. And people who stop pornography will immediately spiral into severe withdrawal. They will even have, vivid dreams that involve using, which is very common for people who stop drugs and alcohol as well. Relapse dreams, they wake up in a cold sweat, wondering if they had really used. So all of that is just very, very similar to people who get addicted to drugs and alcohol.
Does novelty play a part in this as well? I think, like maybe in the 70s when the internet wasn't here, the pornography of that time would have been magazines, one magazine at a time, whereas now the massive change in the scale of internet pornography right now gives people that sort of novelty with one click.
That's right. So if I were to mention the 4 things in the modern ecosystem that make this such an addictogenic world, it would be access, easy access, increased quantity. So pornography online is literally infinite, right? It's unlike a line of cocaine that you would eventually run out and have to go out and buy more. That's not true for pornography or TikTok or video games. Potency is huge. So one of the ways to overcome tolerance is to make a drug more potent. One of the ways to make a drug more potent is to combine 2 drugs together. You see that all the time online with digital products, including pornography. Now you've got gamification or enumeration, or you've got a lot of people joining the same space at once. So you're experiencing the same emotion at the same time. So you're combining pornography, the drug, with that sort of, distorted human connection with other people. And then finally, novelty. You're absolutely right. Dopamine is very responsive to new stimuli in the environment. And what these AI algorithms do specifically is learn us and then suggest to us something similar to what we liked before, but just a little bit different. And that sort of treasure hunting mode is really deeply ingrained in us. We're always looking for sort of like the next new thing or the next best thing. which is what keeps a lot of us online long past that activity has become pleasurable. It's like we know we're not really enjoying anymore, but we just keep thinking, oh, well, something new is going to come along. I also think the key piece about novelty is that, there are lots of people for whom traditional drugs like alcohol, nicotine, cannabis are not particularly reinforcing. But now there's a whole panoply of new drugs online that didn't exist before that are potentially reinforcing. And that certainly happened to me, just in terms of what I talk about in the book, how I've really never found alcohol, caffeine, or other traditional drugs reinforcing. Like they just don't tip my pleasure pain balance to the side of a pleasure. They don't release much dopamine for me. But, online activities are highly reinforcing for me. As I talk about in the book, I got addicted to romance novels, mainly through my Kindle, when I could just get them one after another. I'm very easily, addicted to things on YouTube where I can find myself just hours later, looking for that next YouTube video. So I think this novelty piece also expands the net for people who will get addicted, meaning that there are many more of us now struggling with minor and chronic low-grade addictions.